So let's move on to Marvell. That's the sort of, you and I have both talked a lot about Marvell as the alternative. Marvell had a strong, it had a strong quarter. It had a triple beat. I mean, by all, I'm going to go really quick and get to the end here. Sometimes it takes me a while, and I like to rattle on about things. This was a whisper number miss.
Yeah.
The miss was a whisper number miss. So they came up above the sort of consensus guide with a beat. But the delta between that beat and the whisper number was substantial. Stock fell like 15%. It's closed down almost 20 the next day. They had 62% year-over-year growth in their whisper number of 1.875, but the whisper on the street was 2.1. So it was like a almost 10.5% miss on the whisper. And this is basically, people are saying that, yes, you've gotten into AI, and look, and by the way, look at their business, AI, data center, every other part of that business. I mean, they have completely made the pivot, and they have not been shy about this. This is not like, they will not be insulted if you say this, but their business pivoted to this. So now they've retrained the whole market to look at their whole company as an AI data center play in many ways. And so people want to see that number growing more quickly. And this is that sort of push and pull about how fast AI infrastructure is growing, how fast are XPUs growing, how fast are non-InfiniBand, NVIDIA solutions in and out of the rack growing. And and Marvell is supposed to be the other biggest winner here. We know about AWS and Trainium. We know they had some other builds that are out there. What kind of scale, what kind of growth, what kind of utilization? And to some extent, I think the difference, the biggest polar difference between the Broadcom and Marvell is Broadcom kind of gave this visionary number and guide that they like, this is just getting started. That was kind of feeling like, oh, this is just getting started.
Yeah, and they also hinted about these, two other design wins that aren't even baked in to the financials. That was a difference too.
Totally. And then
Apple and ByteDance, right?
Correct. And we know ByteDance might not make it out the other end, unfortunately, due to China, U.S. ongoing flipper flabber. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But we know Apple's out there. And the thing is we know that every generation to generation, these designs go back up for bid. I just think there's this sense in the market that Broadcom is winning the bigger multi-generation, and they have the proof point with the TPU. Marvell has to prove that it can win the multi-generation, win the volume, right? That the ones they do win come out in volume. They're getting some, and by the way, it's not just XPUs. They're getting some, data offload parts, smart networking parts that are related to AI as well. But those aren't, the volume and the numbers are just not as exciting to people, and it's just not as much of the trend line. So I think the opposite, reaction wasn't in this quarter. It was a miss on the whisper, and it was sort of a miss on providing that market confidence that these XPU projects are going to scale. Same fate AMD faced, by the way, just kind of not giving that certainty of what's ahead. And the market right now hates uncertainty. And I'm going to say that a few more times before this episode's over.
Yeah. So, I'd like to say kind of they got AMD'd, but kind of none of it makes sense, right? I mean, all-time record, Q4 record Q1 guide, right? Great execution, 20% sequential revenue, Q3 and Q4. And, I think investors just thought there was something else in Q1 that, a company like Broadcom delivered. I mean, they're still, when you look at it, growth rates, they're still the only company that's grown more than them has been NVIDIA, right? And it appears that they are on that 20%, on track to get that 20% share of that $75 billion data center that they outlined at their AI day. I was like looking at the sentiment of the analysts, and yes, I'm using Perplexity to help me with that, but it's so funny. I don't trust it, so I went in and I read the transcript. But I think on the positive side, data center growth, right? How could that not be? On the negative side, or she had Barclays questioning near-term Amazon ASIC constraints, characterized at high watermark expectations. Cantor Fitzgerald called the guidance conservative, suggesting that Marvell is in the penalty box until visibility improves. And Vivek Arya, right, kind of highlighting 30% year-on-year decline in enterprise networking, which again I think came down to industry inventory digestion, but also that this enterprise market is still, not exactly banging it out. So, all in all, I have a great quarter and a great forecast, but the market, they just wanted more.